Since the original Passover event in Egypt thousands of years ago, Passover has been the Jewish celebration of God's deliverance of their nation out of the hands of bondage. It is also the key night in Jesus' life when he shared a different Passover experience with his disciples. Passover began the moment families and groups gathered as they came in the door. The servant of the house would wash the feet of the people for two purposes: to clean their feet and to consecrate people for the Passover meal. It was both a physical and symbolic cleansing of the world from a person, so they could be right before God during the holy occasion. Picture how ugly everyone's feet would be, walking barefoot or with open sandals through the streets of Jerusalem, with streets that didn't support cars. They supported the travel of donkeys, horses, animals, the sewer systems, and everything else thrown out of the houses. Then the disciples walk in, expecting the lowest servant to take care of cleansing their feet, and Jesus is the one doing it. Jesus, the leader, the Messiah, washing the feet of everyone else. Worse than the dirt on our bodies is the sin that has accumulated on our souls. Before we can come in front of a holy God, we need a consecration, and Jesus demonstrated that he must do that with us. Sometimes we think we're pretty clean, but when Jesus starts washing the sin off, it can expose just how ugly we really are. Imagine Jesus starting to clean up your soul. What would he have to wash off? Take a few minutes and use the action guide to help your family or group fully embrace the sin we have each carried into this week. The central part of the Passover celebration was called the Passover meal. It had many aspects that were symbolic of what was happening when the Jews left Egypt. A few of those symbolic components included eating bitter herbs, representing the bitterness of slavery; eating the roasted meat, representing the Passover lamb's sacrificed body; breaking matzah bread, representing the effort to flee, not allowing the bread to rise; tasting the 4 wine cups, representing the 4 statements God gave of deliverance. I will bring you out. I will deliver you. I will redeem you. I will take you. Jesus observed the Passover that night, but gave new meaning to those elements. He was the Passover lamb sacrificed for the people. He took on the bitterness of slavery to sin so that we could be freed from it. He became the bread and the cup, choosing to be broken and poured out so that men could be delivered and become God's own people. When you take communion, you are remembering what Jesus did for you, and you proclaim the Lord's death, the one demanded as a price to be paid for your sin. By taking communion, you are saved, but Jesus had to be killed. So we are the one released from our prison sentence, and yet also the ones who put the nails in his body. Jesus, the Lamb, offered himself to the disciples before going to the cross. It was his choice. And he gave us communion as a practice to remember that he offered himself for us too. Use the action guide to share in communion and discuss the deep meaning of communion. We try so hard to make the cross seem less messy, but that's our way of trying to minimize how ugly our sin is. The cross is not an elegant symbol in church buildings, or valuable jewelry, or a beautiful decoration along freeways. It's the most ugly, hideous symbol of punishment and pain ever developed by men to destroy a person, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Get this. Our sin deserved the cross, but Jesus took our place. Not just our place. Realize how ugly your personal sin really is, and how much pain and agony he took for you. The Jesus who just took on the lowest position by washing your feet and offering himself as your sacrifice at communion went the full route and laid down his life willingly on a cross so that we could be forgiven. That Jesus, the Son of God, the Son of Man, took your place on the cross. Your cries became his cries. Your punishment became his punishment. Your pain, his pain. Remember, all the disciples knew was that their leader and Messiah had died. They did not understand or believe in a resurrection. All they felt was a tomb, a total loss, their hope gone. All they saw was a cross, a death, a tomb, no hope. Feel what the disciples felt. Imagine your life without any hope of salvation, without any knowledge or history of a resurrection, without having any chance to be given eternity, because all you know is that you sinned and were disqualified from being with God. And to top it off, you held the hammer that put the nails in the body of the one you hoped would save you. You killed the one whom God sent to fix the problem. How deeply would you mourn? How would you feel? Use the action guide as your final element of the evening, and leave as discussed at the beginning of your group. Let this closing carry you to Easter Sunday morning.